This is Kevin F. Pope with the Pope's Perspective, and today I'm going to see Star Wars The Last Jedi. But before I do so, I thought I would give some predictions about what I think is going to happen in the film. Now, first off, I have a confession to make. I have not really gotten into these new Star Wars films, so I know it's not necessarily the popular opinion. I love the original trilogy. The Empire Strikes Back is one of the most best executed films ever made. So I will always love Star Wars for Star Wars, but these new films I haven't really got into. So I'm just getting that out of the way. But my prediction is I think Luke's going to go bad. That's where I think they're going with it. I could be wrong. I could be right. But that's why. That's not why. Why I think Luke's going to go bad is a simple phrase in the trailer when Luke says, "It is time for the Jedi to end." I just don't think that's a saying that, like, imagine Obi-Wan Kenobi saying that. "It is time for the Jedi to end." Yeah. Imagine Yoda saying that. "Time for the Jedi to end it is." Yeah. Now imagine the Empire saying that. "It is time for the Jedi to end." It just sounds like something that somebody in the dark side would say. So, also I think they want to have some sort of big twist. I mean, since The Empire Strikes Back set the standard with the big reveal of Luke and Darth Vader, and I think they want to do something with this film. It would not surprise me. So that's my prediction. Luke's going bad. I really don't know where they're going with Rey's parents. I've talked to a few people, and that one, they were saying that it's not somebody that we know. So I don't know. I just haven't been as interested. Like I said, I haven't been really into these new Star Wars films, so I kind of really haven't been thinking about it. But Luke's going bad. That's my main prediction. So I'm going to go see the film, and then I will post the second part. It will be a spoiler review, and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. Warning, spoilers ahead. If you have not seen Star Wars The Last Jedi, I advise you not to watch the rest of this video until after you have seen the film. So if I was to run into Luke and I told him my theory for the film, he probably would say to me, "You are completely wrong about everything." Luke didn't go bad. It was just a thought, just an idea. But I was actually very happy with where they went with the story with Luke, and it was very interesting to see where they were going with his character. I'll talk a little about that a little bit later. So, start of the film. I have to say, my biggest complaint for the first Star Wars reboot. Yeah, these are Star Wars reboots. They're the same Star Wars, but I'm going to call them Star Wars reboots. I don't care. So, The Force Awakens, my biggest complaint was it was too much of a rehash of A New Hope. I was like, come on, I've seen A New Hope. This is too similar. No, do something different. Come up with something new. And I'm happy to say in Star Wars The Last Jedi, they didn't do that. And I give them so many points for that. This is, yes, it's a better Star Wars film. Now, first off, the film comes in and you get the opening logos, of course, Star Wars. And you have this little space battle. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this feels like a Star Wars film. And then the people start talking. And it didn't feel like a Star Wars film. And then it went back into space, and then it felt like a Star Wars film again. That is actually what I felt throughout this film. I felt that it was two movies. And I felt one movie I liked a lot. The other movie, not so much. Let me explain. So, the Luke stuff, as I said before, everything with Rey and Luke and Kylo Ren, I really liked. I was very happy with where they went with that side of the story, and it intrigued me, and the other parts of the story, I don't know, I just didn't like it as much. It felt like it became a different movie. I like the character of Finn. I don't have any problem with Finn, but I just wasn't as interested in this story with him and Rose. And every time it went to that parts of the movie, I'm just like, "Ugh, I don't care. I'm just not. Yeah." So at the end of The Force Awakens, Rey finds Luke, and then the movie ends. The Last Jedi picks up right where they left off there, and Rey gives Luke the lightsaber, and Luke tosses it aside. And so Rey finds out that it's not going to be as easy to get training from Luke as she originally planned. Luke has definitely got gruffer over the years, and what I found really interesting about what they did on this is that so he was reluctant to train her, and then he eventually goes on the Millennium Falcon, and uh, R2D2. Leave it up to R2D2. He shows the message with Leia. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And Luke's pretty much like, of course you'd bring that up. And that finally he goes back to train Rey. But this isn't your traditional training as you would think from like other Star Wars films. He's not training her like Yoda trains her. And what really became interesting is when Luke talks about the Force with Rey. And thank you for bringing the Force back to what the Force should be, not these little clear. I can't remember what it was in the episode one. Let's forget about it. That's just like, no, that's not the Force. This was more like the Force is a force that's around you, and it's like you don't use the Force. Well, you use the Force, but the Force is, it's not something that the Jedi own. And Luke talks about that, and Luke talks about how the Jedi weren't so much that like, oh, the Jedi were about wielding the Force. No, the Force is there, but it's not just for the Jedi. And I don't know, I really like where Luke was coming from, like, so that's why he said it's time for the Jedi to end. Because we later learn that as Luke was trying to train Kylo Ren, it didn't work out, and he sensed a lot of bad feelings from him. Or I guess he's Ben Skywalker. No, not Ben Skywalker. Ben Solo, because he's Leia and Han's kid. So he's trying to train him. It's like, okay, this is going to be great, and I am the legend, and all of this stuff. And then it doesn't pan out that way. It's like, oh, it all falls apart. And it just put Luke at this state, and he's just like rethinking everything he saw. It's like, I was put out to be a legend, but am I really a legend? Are the Jedi so legendary and so great? It's like, we need to, no more Jedi. And I actually saw, I'm like, you know what? This made, okay, yeah. I like where this direction with Luke. Now, of course, as the film progresses and we reach near the ending part, Luke does come back. And let's talk about Rey now. So we do learn more about Rey, but that's not really what this film was about. Rey, and it does get the vibes, like in the original Star Wars film, Luke was about like, I feel there's good in him. I can convince him to go back. And then, well, we already know those films. I'm not going to reiterate those films. So you have those with Rey now with Kylo Ren, and it does go back, and I'm just thinking like, holy crap, now they're going into Return of the Jedi. I didn't think they'd do this till the last film. But they did, and it brings her back, and it brings Kylo Ren, and oh, wait a minute, I'm not going to miss talking about the... Oh, wait a minute, you guys have already seen this film. This is a spoiler review. But the whole, you have that connection with Kylo Ren and Rey, and they're talking with each other through the Force, and I'm assuming it's the Force or something on that lines, and that stuff was really good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. But anyway, back to she gets back with Kylo Ren, and then the big surprise: Kylo Ren kills Snark. I did not expect that. I can't say I did not expect it. I expected it right before it happened, but I did not predict it before the movie. I did not predict it at the beginning of the movie. I'm just like, wow, they led it to that point. And then Kylo Ren has her with like, join me. And it would have been interesting. Like, there's so many ways they could have gone with this. And I would have been curious if they would have actually gone the right where she did turn Kylo Ren, and maybe they're going to do that with the next film. I don't know, but it would have been interesting to see if the film turns around and then you got Kylo Ren join forces with Rey to fight the. Hey, it worked with Avatar, The Last Airbender. I hope that's not a spoiler for people that haven't seen it. Crap. I'm just gonna put spoiler for Avatar: The Last Airbender if you haven't seen it, the TV show, not the movie. That's a tangent. Back to Star Wars. But anyway, regardless of how people feel about that, like, wow, I didn't expect it to go that way. So, I actually wouldn't have minded seeing more of Kylo Ren in the film because, like I said, I really liked that part. And then of course Luke comes back, and it. So I guess they are exploring the same themes of with the. There is good in him. We can get him back. And I'm okay with that. So I don't mind nostalgic points from earlier films. I actually like seeing nostalgic references. Like, hey, that's really cool. My problem with The Force Awakens was it was too much rehash of the first film. And so maybe I'll talk about more parts I liked as I get to them and I can think of them. Let's talk about some things I did not like about the film so much. Okay, so some of the things I did not like about the film. Like I said, it felt like two films, and the other film I did not like as much. It didn't feel like a Star Wars film to me. It just, when they went, I guess it could have been a fun space adventure film if it wasn't Star Wars, but it took me so much out of the world. Like when they went to the casino to find the guy who's the guy that for the codes, so they can break in the code to get in to destroy the big ship. I don't remember what the ship's called, but the bad guy's ship. That's what I'm gonna call it. When they went into that, it didn't feel like it's like, oh, this is reference to the Star Wars Cantina from the original film. Or this is like, it didn't feel like maybe it could have been an episode from Doctor Who. I like Doctor Who. If they did that in Doctor Who, maybe I'd be okay with it. Maybe I'm a hypocrite. I don't know. I'm just going off on there. But it felt like a different movie. And then, of course, they went with they ended up in jail, and they end up with this thief character. And I know the actor who plays his name. I know I'm not going to say his name right, so you know who he is. I didn't mind him in the film, but when they had the whole thing, the big turn, I'm like, oh, well, I just betrayed you to the bad guys. Well, let's see. Yeah, was there really not much emotional connection with this guy? You just met this random guy it wasn't even the guy you were looking for to find the codes. It was a random guy that you found in prison, and then he later on betrays you. It was just like, what? No. Also, that big explosion, like, this is a part of the film I actually really liked. With what is her name? Laura Dern? The chick from Jurassic Park. I don't know if she likes to be called the chick from Jurassic Park. That's what I think of her. I really liked that part where she was like, she made that sacrifice with the ship and going through and just went right through the ship. that was really cool. But then the big explosion in there, and right as Kylo Ren and no, not Kylo Ren, right as Finn and Rose are about to be executed, just bow, boom, and that was not what I had a problem with. My problem is that you got all these stormtroopers that are like either passed out or dead or I don't know what, but they're all on the ground, and Rose and Finn just get up, and I'm like, wait a minute, how come they're the only ones that get up? So I did have a problem with that, but the scene with BB-8, I still love BB-8. BB-8 was one of my favorite things from the Force Awakens, and I did really enjoy BB-8 in this film, and so that was really cool when he came in what is that called? The walker thing and started shooting at him. That was a fun moment. I liked that. One thing I do want to say is there was I can't remember what the robot was called. It was like the black BB-8 version, I guess. I'm going to call it evil BB-8. I know it's not what it's called. And they did a lot of setup with that because it's like he's detecting that, oh, something wrong with this. And I guess maybe that is part of what led them to find that, oh, these are the bad. I wish they had done more with that. Like had some sort of a showdown with BB-8 and the evil BB-8. And so I was a little disappointed they didn't do more because they set up with that robot, but they never did anything with it that really became interesting. So I was a little bit upset that they didn't, well, maybe not upset. I would have liked them to have done more with that robot. But I do like BB-8. So let's talk about Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia. This is her last portrayal as Princess Leia, probably her last film. And I'm happy to say she's very good in it. It's been a while since I saw The Force Awakens, but I do think she was better in this one than she was in The Force Awakens. There is one minor complaint I had with it. It was a little bit cheesy, maybe not a little bit, too much cheesy with the scene when they get blown up and then she's floating through space and comes through, and I'm just thinking, oh, she becomes the blue fairy. It's like Pinocchio. But I'm fine with the thing, like, okay, she gets out and then she's in the coma and then she comes out of it. I'm fine with that. It's just that scene was just a little bit too over the top. So I think unintentional comedy at that moment. Another part of the film, there's just so much. I feel so bad. I'm just hashing this film to pieces, but I feel I'm only hashing one film. I'm hashing one film out of two. Progs. I don't know what your feelings were about the Progs. I didn't hate them. They weren't terrible creatures. They weren't annoying. But they were pointless. It was product placement. It's like, hey, let's get this little creature in here and we can sell stuff with them. So if you like the Progs, that's fine. That's fine. I really don't have any problem with the Progs, except that they were product placement. If you don't remember what the Progs are, there's the little creatures that kind of like I don't know, kind of a cross between like an owl and a mole, maybe. I don't know. It was just like it has those like big eyes things. So I don't know. Progs were kind of pointless to me. They were just like, oh, they're just little comic moments here and there. Sorry for anybody that likes Progs. So, the second subplot, the film I did not like as much. And like I said, if it was its own film and I wasn't as so interested in the film with Luke Skywalker and what was happening to him, maybe I would have been okay with the film. But the whole thing with again, it's back in where they have the casino and that, and it has some interesting ideas, and I definitely find it intriguing and things to explore, but it just got too political and off to a different film with the whole thing with the city's beautiful, but the city's paid for by the war, and the suffering of people. And I think it's poignant themes. I'm not saying that these themes are bad things. I just felt I was taken into a different film and out of the Star Wars film that I came to see. And while we're at it, I also felt there were moments. There was, well, I didn't mind this chase where it had that horse creature thing and they all stampede out, but there were like the little comic moment things with just the little things that were inserted. It's like the special edition of Star Wars. It's like, is this really needed? Is it really like we could have had this thing where that's fine. They get through, but just some of the this movie was too long, and it could have been trimmed. By the time it actually got to the end battle, I was exhausted. Like maybe if the film had ended before that and it started at that point, I don't know. Although at the same time, on what it all led up to, and back to the positive side again, when it led up to the whole thing with Luke coming back, that was awesome. That was great. That was so good. And so I guess there's just like the problems with the other parts of the film. So maybe if they would have gotten to that faster, I wouldn't have had as much problem with that final battle at the end, because I was just exhausted, I was tired, and I was just like, when is this movie going to end? And so, but points to them though. When they got me back interested again, I did remain interested again. I'm like, okay, I'm back on board. And then the movie ended, and I was fine. I'm like, okay, now the movie's ended, and there's things that I really enjoyed about this film, and I'm going to give it this much credit. Before this film, I was not, like I said, I haven't really been into these new Star Wars films. I had not been excited about them or anxious for them. I know everybody loves the new Star Wars films, or maybe, I don't know how many people love this film. But I'm more excited for the next one after this film, because the stuff I liked, I really liked, and for the first time in a while, I'm excited to see where this next Star Wars film is going. And so yeah, I went off on a few rants, and there are things I didn't like, but there are definitely things I did like in the film. And oh, one more point of randomness. And I did find this random in the film. I love Yoda. Yoda has always been my favorite Star Wars character. But his scene felt kind of random. I'm just like, why is Yoda suddenly appearing now, and why didn't he appear before? And so, I don't know. I have mixed feelings for this film. There are two films here. One film I love, and one film not so much. So this one's a mixed bag. I don't know how everybody else is going to feel, but that's the Post perspective on Star Wars: The Last Jedi.